Hi, Cade Resnick here. Thank you for joining my channel. Thank you for coming to join me today in our conversation. I realize it's a one-way conversation where I'm chatting and you're listening, so thank you. Once again, our conversation today is going to be about communication. Communication is such an important tool. The issue with communication with many people is that they aren't actually taught or trained to communicate, and even more so, they're not taught or trained to listen. Respectfully, communication is so easy to do because all we do is talk. But if that was the simplicity of it, everybody would get an A and everybody would be perfect, and hey, there'd be no reason for me to have this video. Unfortunately, communication is far more than just talking. Communication are the words that we share with others and the way they're received by others. This is important. I share this with you because if you were watching my previous video, I did share that when we talk about communication, quite often there's a gap between us that we have to figure out how to fill that gap. I refer to it as sort of a river of space between us. And the further apart the river is, the harder it is for us to communicate. But realistically speaking, communication is just the way of saying how we interpret one another. Brene Brown refers to the fact we need to be vulnerable with each other and we need to be open with each other. She's right. John Gottman talks about how we need to turn into each other and be a we instead of an I and us. We need to be a we. To get there is hard work. Because there's going to be days where you share something with your partner, you share something with somebody else, you share something with a friend or a coworker. And they go, yeah, I hear you. And move on. Or they say, yeah, absolutely, I'm interested in that. And they move on. And you're sitting there going, wait a second, I thought we talked about that. I thought we discussed that. People need to be vested and invested in each other to see the success moving forward. Communication isn't, I said it, you said yes, all right, now we hold their feet to the fire. There's a lot more to it than that. Now, if I say to you, I promise I'm going to do something, and I fail you, I make that mistake and I don't do it. It is so vitally important that I say, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Far too often, people are afraid to say, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. It is okay to make mistakes. It's okay to share openly, I don't know. I'm frustrated. The people we talk to deserve to know the truth. If we're talking to people, it's fine to say to them, hey, I hear what you're saying. Do you want to hear the whole story? Do you want to hear the whole truth? Or do you just want to hear me say, okay? Ask them. Put it on the table. What do you want from me? Now, as somebody who's a mental health counselor, I work with both individuals and couples and families. And what's interesting is almost every time the people walk through the door and they say, we communicate well together when they're a couple. Yet when they're individual by themselves, they go, yeah, the communication's awful. So I spend a lot of my time working with people, teaching them how to communicate. But let me backpedal myself. I teach them how to be vulnerable with each other. I teach them how to work together by being open with each other, sharing with each other their feelings, sharing with each other their emotions, sharing with each other the good days and the bad days, the great things and the not so great things. When you come back from work and you say to your partner, I had a rough day. How often does your partner go, oh, let me stop what I'm doing. Let me put this down and let me say, hey, talk to me. Tell me about your rough day. Sometimes they do, but most often they don't. Your request for that partner to turn towards you and go, oh, what's going on? Tell me about that. When your partner does do that, now it's a we, and you're figuring it out. When your partner or you turn around and say, hey, you know what? I have an issue. I have something going on I want to talk to you about. And the person goes, oh, no, not right now. Not in a place to talk about it. That's okay. Flip that around and then go, when are you available to talk about it? Because we have to be able to communicate with each other, to share with each other. Whenever partners or people we feel are close to us remove the opportunity to speak to them about the things we feel are important, our friendships and our relationships start to weaken. Now, adding to that communication is not just being vulnerable and saying, okay, we want to share with you. It's being received on the other side. That person hears what you're saying and shares back with you. So it's a back and forth understanding of how this is working. This is important. Because if you're sharing and the other person's receiving, but letting it fall flat in front of you, that's not a relationship. It's not a friendship. It's a one-way street. And we all know a car going down a one-way street only has one way to go. It's not a relationship. Communication is a two-way street. That river that I talked about, which gets wider and wider and wider, in order to close it, it takes two people to close it and to be strong together and to turn into one another. That is so vitally important. So when we talk about communication, there are obviously so many paths for us to go. But today, what I want you to focus on, what I want you to think about, is having a purposeful conversation. If you're in a relationship right now and it's very flat and there's nothing going on, try it. Say to your partner, I would love to sit down and talk to you about something important to me. Think about it. What is important to you? And when your partner says to you, okay, let's do it, put it on the table. And if your partner says, thank you, hear you, say, okay, repeat back to me what you heard. Let's start this purposeful conversation. When I'm working with people, I tell them there's three sides to our house. You've got the foundational pieces, you've got the trust, and you've got the commitment to each other. The bottom part is your heart at peace. You know if something's wrong. And if you have the trust and if you have the commitment to one another, now we're building a house. We're building a home. We're building a relationship. We're building a friendship. In order to have your heart at peace with trust and commitment, and there's more pieces that go into this house, and with more videos, I'll teach those to you. What I'm asking you to think about is how do you communicate trust and commitment to one another with your partner back and forth so that you're doing so as a team. Think about it. Consider it. If you're currently in a state where there's a lot of conflict between you and your partner, how do you dissolve some of that? Positive speech, kind words. If you're the one coming at your partner and you're saying, hey, and your partner's running away, stop and say, okay, what do I need to do for you to come back to me? Let that person let you know what's that space for them to come back. If you're sitting on this side of the house and they're sitting on that side of the house, say, hey, what's it going to do for us to come back together? Ask the tough questions. Ask each other, how do we benefit one another? And when you're able to do that, you open the lines of communication. You open the opportunities for one another. And you've opened to a richer, friendlier, kinder, and more loving relationship. Thank you for listening to my conversation today on communication. I look forward to building that house with you, one conversation at a time. I'm back here next week, and I'll chat with you soon. Have a great day. Cheers.